Here we go, Sam.
We're on.
It's web release week here at Progress.
Well, it's everything release week, so
it's everything. It really is.
Hey, folks. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Thank you for joining us here at Coded Live. We are your hosts for the day. I'm Sam, and this is Ed, and we are here to celebrate what we did last week, what our engineering teams did last week. I mean, it takes a lot to run a software shop, right? You need PMs, you need testing teams, you need devs, you need everybody to work together. But we just had our R3 release for 2021, and we like to close out the year strong. So you're going to see a lot of goodies that we put in across all of our stuff. So all things Telerik with all the .NET stuff, all things Gantt UI with JavaScript across Angular, React, Vue, and so on. So here we are trying to unpack all those things in a casual, stream, and we're going to do formal webinars next week, but this week we are kind of diving into all the new things. So, like Ed said, today is all things web. So I'm just here to learn and watch while Ed goes. He's our resident web expert, and we're here to learn about what's new in Telerik side of the family with all things ASP.NET. So web forms, MVC, Razor, Blazor, all the coolness. Tomorrow, I will be joined by two other very special engineers to talk about all the stuff that's in mobile and desktop. Wednesday, we get with the Fiddler team and talk about what's happening with Fiddler Jam and the different Fiddler everywhere. I think we had actually a release which coincided with the Telerik and Gantt releases as well. And then Thursday and Friday are all things JavaScript. So I think Thursday is Gantt React, and then Friday is Angular. So that's going to be a full week of streaming as we dive into new stuff. Yeah. And,
excellent summary there, Sam. I think you may be underestimating yourself a little bit, calling me the web expert with with you being such a MAUI expert and the web starting to bleed into MAUI. I think you've got a lot invested in the web lately too.
I do, and it's a fun time, right? It's we get to share the love, and I see chat room filling up. Our good friends are here. Hey,
absolutely.
Hello. All right. So let's dive in. I'm here to learn. Are you ready to share your desktop?
Let's do it. So the first thing I want to talk about, Sam, is our old friend, web forms. We don't talk about web forms a lot, but it's one of those things that's been around since almost my early days of
2002.
Yeah, it's just cutting my teeth on software development when this came out. So I had done like VB6 a little bit and some other type of programming things, and then this web forms came about and changed the game for me. So it's an old friend of mine.
Yep. So before you kind of dive into web forms, so just a quick shout out. So hey Cindy, but this link here that I posted, so this kind of recaps everything across all things Telerik and Candy UI, and from there you can kind of dive into what's new in web forms, what's new in MVC, what's new in Blazor. So, and I think it kind of links out to the individual product pages. So if you want to dive into just your product, that's perfectly cool. But I kind of like to kind of get a sense of here's all the things that are changing in, like if you are using like Telerik DevCraft, so here's all the goodies in your basket.
I assume this is the post that you linked to,
yes,
Sam, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, this is quite an extensive list of things, which is awesome because it talks about all of our stuff like Fiddler and web UIs and desktop UIs and all that good stuff, testing, reporting, you name it. I'm wondering if the link that the page I'm on is linked in here. So
it should be. If you scroll up to like your web section, there should be a link.
Let's see.
So, yep. Just keep going down.
Okay, there we go. So I don't know if this link in particular, you're gonna have to hunt for it. So I'm gonna share this one as well, because if you're out there and you're interested in what I'm about to do, I think you will be.
Oh, so this is a different one. You're talking about specifically the web live preview.
Yep, this is one of the features of the release, but it's specific to Telerik UI for ASP.NET AJAX. So I'm going to hit some of the AJAX stuff first. So we have like a date range picker, which is something that I can't believe we didn't have in AJAX already. This is something that I've advocated very heavily for in our other products. So this might be why you saw it so early in Blazor. It's because I'm shouting from the rooftops, like, we need this. Here's something
for like in Xamarin for like 2 years now.
Oh, have we? Yeah. So this is something I'm a big fan of, is a date range picker, because I have personally had to write this thing like a million times over. So anytime you come up with a reporting screen of any sorts, what do people have to do on a reporting screen but pick between two dates? So this is where the date range picker comes in handy. We have it for AJAX now. Maybe we didn't have it in AJAX because it was just kind of easier to implement with AJAX out of two date pickers, but this makes it so much easier, especially with like validation rules in place and all that stuff, right?
I mean, think about anything like tourism. You want to book a flight, book a hotel. You want to do like workday type of, like, you want to set up your PTO, anything, you need a date range.
Yeah, so it's an excellent component. It's brand new, but what I really want to focus on here is this web live preview version. So expect things to maybe not work 100% of the time. This is a preview. Just manage your expectations here. But I want to show this off today because I think it's a really cool technology. And we're used to this WYSIWYG drag and drop live editing experience from AJAX already. This is kind of the next generation of this technology, and it's going to move the ball forward for other tech to pick it up, such as MVC and possibly even Blazor somewhere down the line. I wouldn't expect this to happen in the near term, just because it's a very complex thing with a lot of moving pieces. But the AJAX or web forms crowd is going to get it first because they're already used to this style of development. So it's being kind of dog-fooded there. And depending on how successful it is and how well received it is, it will probably make its way into these other technologies as well. And I think this is also a good time to just kind of share with folks and refresh their memory on the fact that we spend a lot of time working very, very closely with the Microsoft engineering teams and PM teams. And this is something that came out of that collaboration with Microsoft. So, when you all as customers, this feedback, a lot of times that feedback is out of our space to make things happen. We have to funnel that feedback directly to Microsoft, but it's a nice pipeline that you have to get your suggestions into the people that matter. This is a really great example of that. So let's take a look at exactly what this live preview stuff does. There's an excellent blog post I just shared in chat that goes over all of the details of what this is and how to try it out and the steps that you will need to get this working. Again, preview, so keep that in mind. But this is a tech that's going to link up your browser with your dev tools and let you do some pretty cool things. I won't go over the blog post verbatim here. I'll let you guys do that in your spare time because I want to get to like the live coding demonstration part of this because it's just so cool. So first of all, let's go ahead and just make sure I've got this set up correctly.
Hey, Ed, just a couple of things before you go in. Some of your fonts look a little fuzzy. I'm not sure if it's just a browser or...
the fonts look fuzzy. Let me...
Just a little bit. So maybe, like, are you in the right resolution for what
I am in 1080p, and I have... I'm zoomed in 200% here. Let me see. I need to look... I need to look temporarily at the live stream here.
Oh, the matrix.
I can't do that. Yeah, it's not letting me do that. Are we streaming at the maximum quality here? Because everything looks good on my side. That's something.
Yeah, no, I can read, but so it's fine. I mean, let's move on.
Yeah,
maybe it's me.
Double check, folks, if you're watching from Twitch, that you've got the little setting set to 1080p. That may help.
Yeah. All right. Might as well just be me. Okay. Yeah, I have questions about this.
I'm sure you do.
Is this like WebView 2 type thing that's just embedded inside of Visual Studio for us to take a look at this?
So there's a couple different things. It might make more sense once I start getting into the demos. So let's put a pin in that one just for a minute. And take a look at the setup here real fast. So I've got Visual Studio 2022 preview installed. In our steps in the guide here, it says you need to go to the Visual Studio Marketplace to install an extension. I personally didn't need to do this. I don't know why. It was already pre-installed for me, so I did not get that part of this installed manually. I had it already done. And then this is really important. You need to go turn the feature on. It's an experimental feature. So in Visual Studio, we'll go ahead and I'm going to open up a Telerik application, Telerik UI for AJAX based application here. You could do this without a project open, but I'm going to open that anyway. And then up in the Omni search here, I'm just going to type in live preview. And you'll see up here that I get a nice search result for that. So I can just click on it. And of course, when I exit, it's going to kick me out. Live preview. And I'll just click on that, and it'll bring me directly to the setting for that option. And then I need to make sure that it is enabled in this dialog. So I'm going to hit OK here. I've already enabled that. Let's see if there's anything else I'm missing before I move on. So I've got that enabled, and then we can go straight into just using the extension. So let's take a quick look at that. So if I right click on my application, you will see that I have a context menu here that says Edit in Browser. So I'm just in the default ASPX page here, and I'm going to go ahead and right click Edit in Browser. So Visual Studio is going to launch my application, and we're loading. And this is the first time it's loaded in a bit, so it might take a second, and you'll see this nice magic toolbar at the bottom of the screen. You can tell by this toolbar that I'm in the live preview mode. Let me try to zoom in a bit so we can see the application just a little bit better. And you can see this little floating helper that's following my cursor around. And whenever I select a component, you can see that it shows the actual selected component inside the application. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little side-by-side split screen action. What's up now?
Hey,
I'll turn fuzzy here too.
Ed, yeah, just pause for a second. Yeah, I think I think let's stop and share again, because I think the fonts have just gotten fuzzy on your end.
I'm wondering if there is a bandwidth issue on my end or something.
Could be, because
there's not much more I can do from. Is it still fuzzy here, folks?
Yeah. I mean, if you zoom in quite a bit, then we see it, but it's a little fuzzy.
Something's making it blurry by the sounds of it. All right. So if you can't see me working, then it's not going to be a very good show.
Can you do this? So can you, instead of sharing your whole desktop, could you just try sharing Visual Studio and see if that helps?
Just try Visual Studio. Visual Studio, I need to zoom in a bit. So the web I did, here I did not. So can we see?
That's better. Yeah, it says some of the menu options that you were showing, those were a little fuzzy.
Okay. All right. And then let me swap back over to the running app. Can we see the app okay?
Yeah, we can't quite read some of the text, but we can read the dark mode in Visual Studio helps. So we can read the code. We can't quite read the stuff that's in white.
This is so strange because it is like gigantic on my screen. I can't see how I could make this any bigger without like it being just one like word on the screen. Yeah. So there's something wrong with something in the video. Let me try. Give me a second. I'm going to switch cameras real fast and see if this has anything to do with it. Maybe I'm taking up too much bandwidth with my video. So give me one sec.
Oh no, you're going to leave me alone.
I may not have to leave completely, but let me try dropping down to low definition on my camera, and maybe that'll free up some bandwidth for me. And okay, let's see if that helps. Give it about 30 seconds. It might clear up. So let me try to zoom in a little bit while I do this, just so it'll help with the fuzziness of it all. Down here.
Actually, now we read it. Yeah.
Okay. So down here, I've got some text, just plain text. It says Telerik webmail down here. I'm going to customize this just a little bit, and I'm going to do it right inside of the browser here. So I've just clicked. I'm in Chrome. I'm not in Visual Studio. Let's actually find the code in Visual Studio here as well, or was I already on it? It's easier to do this in side-by-side mode. Let me try that again. There it goes. And navigated to it. And I'm going to change this to, I'm going to change this live to.
While you're doing it, our good friends are here in the chat room. And who needs enemies when you have friends like Alyssa says? She's saying your fancy setup is getting us again.
Yeah, I think that might have been it, actually. I think my camera setting was too high and it was killing my bandwidth. So I think we may actually be good now.
Yeah, it's better now.
So lesson learned. So you can see here, hopefully, that I edited this in the browser and it changed my source code. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did. Okay, this is weird. And what's going on under the covers?
So this is like the next generation of that browser link that we have in Visual Studio. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we are linked up with the browser, and there are some backend services at play that are keeping Visual Studio in sync with the code that we're editing live in the browser, and it's allowing us to navigate through things, so such as this menu, and I could even get my editor that you would normally see in old school web forms. The smart tags are now available in the browser itself. So we're in Chrome, which remember back in the day, it was like an embedded editor that was built into Visual Studio. So this is actually running Chrome, what we would see in our web browser. And can
you zoom in on the context menu?
Sure can.
Okay,
maybe not.
That's better.
When I hit the zoom key, it closes it.
No.
But
no, we get it. So I have more questions. Is this well? I mean, we're really sitting on top of what Microsoft is doing here, right?
Yeah, but this did require a lot of collaboration to get our smart tags working.
Exactly. Smart tags are specific to Telerik controls, and so now you're bringing it over. Now, is this Chromium only?
That I have to read up some more on. I don't believe so. I think it might be initially. I'm not 100% sure on this. I probably need to read our own blog post that I alluded to earlier on that. I believe you can use it in Edge. I just don't have it set up.
Edge is also Chromium.
True. Yeah. So those would probably be the main two. I don't know if you can do this in Firefox. I don't have the latest version of that installed, but this is the first preview of it. So we'll probably see those things come into the ecosystem.
So what you're saying is, like, web forms developers, we are used to seeing this kind of WYSIWYG menu, right? So when we drop a grid on a page, we have those smart tags that light up all the properties of the grid or the chart or the scheduler, right? And when you right-click, you see those properties. So now you're saying that is available to you while the app is running in the browser.
That's correct.
When you make changes in the browser, they persist and they come back into your code.
Right. So if I change options in my menu here, it gets persisted to, well, again, it's preview, so I'm getting a little bit of inconsistency there, but essentially we'll be able to change things in here. Let's try to enable paging, for example. See if that sticks. Yeah, that one's stuck. So we can enable paging, enable filtering, and we'll turn grouping on. And it's kind of hard to see here, but it is making changes up in the component here, the rad grid, as I do that. So that is pretty awesome. So I'll go ahead and save those changes. And, this is a nice workflow here that I can come in and fix, for example, if I had a typo or something, I'm right in here. I can go ahead. Maybe I meant to have a space there. I mean, that type of an edit is so much easier in the live view than it is to go find that text in the source code. So this is a very cool thing.
It is. It is. And is the live view only for running it local?
As far as I know, yes. So this is a dev time experience only right now. I think you have to be running it on the local machine. So it has I think it does this through SignalR in the background, if I remember correctly. So there's essentially a SignalR connection being made to the browser to provide the editor and then communicate back to Visual Studio the updates. So this is how the browser like technology worked in the past. I'm assuming it's building upon that.
Yeah, SignalR is everywhere, even though you don't explicitly use it. Blazor server side is all SignalR. That real-time bridge between the DOM and whatever you're doing server side is real nice.
So this is an official Microsoft Telerik collaboration thing. This is in our latest Telerik UI for AJAX release. Is support for this technology. You can try this out immediately using, I think it works in Visual Studio 2019 as well. I'm using 2022 just because I have the latest stuff, but you should be able to use it in 2019. As long as you have all the latest updates in place and follow the guide that I pasted into chat earlier. Now, I will mention, this is not something that you can use in Blazor yet, but there is a community project out there. I'll have to do a little search to find it again. But there is a community project out there that does this as well. It's not quite as advanced as this, so you can't do like the real-time editing and stuff. But what you do get is the ability to see your components in the context of the browser. So just like I clicked on this one here, it will navigate over to the component in Visual Studio, just so you have kind of that mental mapping between your components and how they're rendering in the browser. And I'm sure that community member will continue to advance that technology as well. And I'm sure Microsoft is taking note of what they're up to see if they can support that in any way. So I did ping some of the folks that are working on this to that project so they could check out what that individual is doing, and they were pretty happy with the progress they were making. So it seems like there's some cool stuff going on there.
Very nice. Very nice.
All right. I think that's about it for Ajax that I'm going to cover today. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up unless we have any specific things that anybody wants to see regarding this tech. Are we good, chat? Want me to move on? We can talk about some MVC and some Blazor and all that stuff.
I'm good. It's just like it is quite amazing, like how stuff we have done well in the past, like with WinForms and web forms, they are still running on .NET 5, and they're still going to run on .NET 6. So yes, all the latest and the cool stuff is there, but enterprises, as we maintain our apps, there is no pressure for you to hop on to the latest thing if you don't want to. This is fine for you to do what you're doing. Yeah,
I think Microsoft's working really hard at bringing over. I'm going to call it legacy. This isn't their words. I'm going to call web forms kind of a legacy tech. It's 20 years old now. It doesn't mean that it's obsolete in any way, shape, or form. It's just older. It's not as it's not given as much attention in our world, just because it's something that's stable. It doesn't change a whole lot, so there's not a whole lot of new things to talk about. But if you look, they're still working on it and bringing it forward with these new features like Web Life Preview, because there's a lot of developers out there still using Ajax because it works and it's stable. There's nothing wrong with using it.
Absolutely, that's the reality. So just for fun, I was at a conference last week, and I did a session which was titled "Tell Me You're Old Without Telling Me You're Old," because I was talking about XAML and the stuff we did with like WPF years and years back. It all runs. It's all fine even today. So
yeah, I think if you've got 20 years experience building web forms, I mean, you're probably moving pretty swiftly with that technology by now. You've seen a lot of the problems and solved a lot of the problems, and you've kind of got a good pace at developing things. It's a great tech. It's been updated over the years, so it does HTML5 and CSS3 and all the stuff you'd expect from a modern web app. So no shame in using that. Let's.
Yeah, I know you want to get to MVC and Blazor, so let's do it.
Yeah, let's talk about MVC and Blazor real quick. We have a bunch of new features and components.
Org chart.
Yeah, org chart is an interesting one, and so is HeatMap. HeatMap is another real interesting one. Of course, CAPTCHA. Like, these are some very specific components. They have some very specific uses. So I thought the HeatMap one was really cool. I haven't thought about that one. I haven't had a need for that personally, but then when I saw it, I started to think of all the possibilities for it. So that one's a really cool one. We could take a little bit deeper look at that one in a second. Lots of new form features. Forms are a pretty big focus here. If you look at all the web stuff that we've been working on, one of the things that's in Blazor now and is in a lot of our other tech as well is the ability to like auto-generate forms based on certain criteria. Depends on what platform you're using. So if you're in the .NET world, you can just throw a model at the form without specifying all the fields, and it will help you auto-generate that markup for you at runtime. So that's pretty cool. I think you could do something similar in Kendo UI as well, but I think you have to add a little bit of a JSON formatting to it to get it to work. So there's like an extra step, but it's not anything that's as involved as writing a new form from top to bottom. So a lot of form stuff here. So you'll see we've added a lot of features there as well. I won't go through all of these things. Of course, across all of our products here is advancements in what we call the DPL, or document processing library. And Sam, do we have these same improvements on the Xamarin side as well?
Yes, because essentially these are .NET standard libraries. So we do it once, and then every product across whatever technology you're using, it benefits from it. And this is something actually we are quite proud of, because it takes a lot of engineering to pull off document and PDF and spreadsheet processing on the fly with whatever app that you're writing on.
Mm-hmm. Another big milestone here for all of our web tech is support for Bootstrap 5. So Bootstrap 5 is something that people are moving towards. We have support for that as well. And then while we're talking about design, Sam and I are fortunate enough to have a brand new teammate that is going to help us with this. So we have Catherine joining us on our team, and she's going to be helping us learn a little bit more about Figma. But all of our products are getting design kits for Figma. So this is going to help you communicate with your designers and coordinate with them on how your components and your themes will work with our Telerik and Kendo UI components. That is going to be pretty amazing. So it's nice to have somebody new on the team that can help us get some fresh eyes on this Figma stuff.
Yeah, and then we are constantly trying to bridge that developer-designer gap and then trying to make that workflow as smooth as possible. Yeah, and I was going to post something towards the MVC product page because Ed is already on it. So this is actually nice because of all the things we are doing every release, you don't have to take our word. You head out there and you get to the demos, and you don't need to install anything. It's all web-based, so you can actually play around with all of the newer components, and they are marked with little flags that say new, so you know exactly which ones are new, and you got to have a good experience.
Yeah, so these are the little green tags that Sam's talking about here. So you can see the new stuff. The lightly shaded ones here are the updated. Lots of updates in this as well. So we've got, let's take a look at the heat map. This is a really cool one. And you can see how this could be important for very certain types of data. It's a really nice visualization that it's something that's pretty complex to build on your own. So it's nice to see that we can just easily implement something like this now. And of course, we have tag helpers if you're using ASP.NET Core. So you've got that very HTML-like semantic element component type of markup. So you don't have, I nuked my bandwidth earlier. Is it still bad? Is it getting better, Sam?
It's getting better once you zoom in, but otherwise, the fonts are a little fuzzy.
Yeah, I toned down the camera feed, so I thought that might help. We could try switching it up a little bit more if it's still fuzzy.
I know you're really zoomed in, but this we can read what you have.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think it was a bandwidth issue earlier. This seems a little bit more normal, but it's this is a type of a component that falls into the chart category. So if you're using tag helpers, you're going to call a Kendo chart. It is a heat map, and then you add your title and series. So what's really cool about the charting stuff is you got multiple series in these things. It really mix things up a bit if you know what you're doing with charting. you can really make some great visualizations. So you specify, your category elements. These can be data sourced as well. This is just showing that you can do some static data here as well. Basically, anywhere you can, apply an array, you can get that from a database and pull it into like an IEnumerable or whatever and apply it to categories just the same. And that's about it. That's what's really wonderful about these components is how easy they are to get implemented. Usually it's just providing some data in the right places. So we've got, look at this, the ability to color these things. We've got pan and zoom in here. So I'm scrolling on the component. Let me get the page into the right view here. Look at that.
Wow.
So you can zoom out on this data, and then maybe if there's something in a certain quadrant you want to zoom in on, you can, focus in on that element as well. Let's see what we got here. We've got crosshairs to, again, analyze that data even in more detail. And we've got markers here as well. So we can change the style of these markers. So again, just helping with all of that visualization stuff, depending on your data and how you want to apply it, you have customization there. So that was a really interesting one that I thought was a nice add to the product library there. And these are on the roadmap for Blazor as well. We don't have it in this release, the heat map itself in this release for Blazor, but it is on the roadmap. So I always tell folks, if you want to see like what is coming in Blazor, go over to Core and take a look at what's here. And, Core's been around and MVC have been around for, I think, what is it? 6 or 9 years. I can't remember. But it's been, I think 9 years. Core's been around for about 9 years. Or not Core, I mean MVC. It's been around.
Yeah, more, if not.
Yeah. So, it's had quite a head start. So you'll see a lot of things in here that haven't been developed for Blazor yet. But you can kind of get an idea of where things are headed by coming here and looking if you're not already a customer on that platform. Let's jump over to Blazor and talk about Blazor a little bit.
Like you never do talk about Blazor.
Yeah, we might be able to jump into some live demoing of things too, depending on how much time we've got. Let's see. So I want to go back to the main. Oh, I can do the drop down here. Let's go over to Blazor, and I thought it would go. There we go. Demos. And again, we'll scan down here and see we've got some new things.
One quick thing, Ed, before you jump into each of the components, if you scroll up a little bit, this is something I love showing out to people. And Ed's actually responsible for some of these apps, and also like engineering teams have been working. See those like sample Blazor apps? Yes. Almost all of them are actually PWAs. So they are progressive web apps that you can run on your desktop or your mobile. Again, I'm the native guy, so I love that because like it just takes away the shell, takes away the Chrome, and you can just run the app. It's a web-based app. You still need the internet to make it work, but hey, you can install it and just call it a day.
Yeah, this is what I'm very close to here. This one we built on Code It Live over about a year, I think, from start to finish. We put this one together and added some really interesting features to it that I think showcase the component library very well. So we've got like our menu that we can just drag and drop our tiles around because this is a tile layout component. So we can just use that to navigate. We've got CRUD operations on forms or charts in here, grids in here. We've got custom components embedded into columns. I mean, you name it, it's probably in here as far as grid features go. So there's a lot of things in here to enjoy as far as examples. And then, like Sam said, I can install this as a PWA, run it without the browser Chrome, and it looks and feels like a desktop application. And then at some point, we will see this type of technology inside of a MAUI shell, which would be really interesting. And then we can do really advanced things like get data from a file on our desktop, or use native push notifications in the OS, do maybe some more advanced Windows authentication with Active Directory. Those are possibilities with MAUI. So we should see that in the midterm of the .NET 6 release, I think.
Yeah, and that's exciting because you're really kind of mixing the best of both worlds. Like you being the web guy, and I think Alyssa maybe in the chat room, like of course you want the web to be everywhere, but there are some unique benefits that you get by being native, and now you're bringing that into the native world. So we have APIs that let you access just about anything you want to access on the desktop as well as on your mobile devices with your sensors, and all of that can be brought back into Blazor. So you have access to all of that stuff from web code, which is something new because you have always run things inside of a web sandbox, and now you can step outside of it.
Absolutely. I pulled up the Gantt chart. This actually got released in the last release cycle, but it's such a massive component that we've actually released it last release and then added a ton of new features to it in this release. So you will see the Gantt chart in here with new features, column reordering, resizing. So we're constantly improving this one just because it can do so much. We've actually split this up into different releases. So we've got, the day, week, and month views. This thing's totally customizable. It's got, the hierarchical display. So you can nest these values. You can drag and drop nodes in here. I mean, it's a really advanced component that is very customizable, as most things are here. And while I'm on the topic of customization, did you see this? This is across all the web tech, Sam. We've always been able to change theme in our demos at demos.telerik.com. We've expanded the amount of themes that you can use in here, just to show off the capabilities of how themable these components really are. And this is something I think you'll see us talk a lot more about in the coming days and months as we get things like our Figma kits, in the community and people start using them. And I think there's going to be more advancements to come in that space. But for example, if I want to use this theme here, I am a big fan of the orange and blue, as you might know, Sam. I can just select that off of my drop-down list, and then the entire Gantt component just got styled with that blue and orange theme. And you can use that same theme in your application just by going to ThemeBuilder, right there, launch ThemeBuilder, and just download it and install it in your app. Simple stuff. It makes it look great. I'll pop back out to.
Wait, I was on mute too while I was talking. So
I was
sorry.
Say,
and you can use, like in ThemeBuilder, you can download that as like CSS or less or Sass if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. So you can. I don't know if we support less anymore. We can definitely download that as Sass. Less is kind of old school tech at this point.
Interesting.
But
See,
yeah,
I'm
definitely.
I'm not on the bleeding edge of the web, so I don't know which one's falling off.
So we could go in for a whole session on that, like how that war got won. My opinion of it is less was big time mainstream for a while, and then Bootstrap, and this is just my opinion, Bootstrap moved to Sass, and I think that was the end days of less. People still use it. But I think Sass got dominant by the fact that a lot of people use Bootstrap, and Bootstrap uses Sass. Therefore, the larger part of the community uses Sass now. You see this kind of thing happen with all sorts of stuff. Like PHP is still massively popular because of things like WordPress. Exactly, WordPress and Joomla and a lot of the big PHP-based systems.
Yeah, and you were showing the Gantt chart, and again, I keep going off on these like tangents because I'm amazed at what the modern web can do. Like, so that's Figma, folks, that Ed's talking about. We have Figma kits, so your designers, if you do have any in-house, they can just like work with the exact components that you're going to put in your apps and give you things as a starting point. And that's all web, right? Like you see the Gantt chart and how interactive that is. Like all of the things that Figma does, like, and these are like, and we are excited with like MAUI bringing Blazor into the desktop. But again, in reality, we have been able to do these things for a while, like with things like Electron. And like VS Code is entirely a web-based application. So I'm amazed at how much the web can do.
Yeah, and this is a component that I think is very important to any application. And it's not one of those that kind of hits you as being obvious unless you've been in certain areas of industry. One of those is manufacturing. I worked in manufacturing for 15 years as a developer, and we used barcodes all over the place. It's a very quick and easy way for different systems to communicate with each other. And, sometimes this is because of paper technology that's still required somewhere, or maybe you have a mobile device that's got the barcode on it that needs to be, fed into some other system. It's a very handy way to get things linked together. And, having this as a component in your web library is extremely important. And we'll see other things like a QR code and stuff as well. But barcodes play a very important role in industry currently.
So did Blazor not have barcodes?
No, this is brand new in this release. So this just came in the current release last week that we launched.
So this is going to open up like a whole gamut of things you can do with barcodes, because like we have had them obviously for native land, and it's amazing. There are like at least like 24 different types of barcodes and QR codes we support, and some of them have very unique industry vertical needs, like for the travel industry, for like for payments and stuff like that, the data matrix type things. So you have a lot of different choices now with barcode.
Yep. And if you've ever worked in any of these industrial platforms, the encoding is the very linchpin of how all this works. Basically, this is your language that the barcode is speaking. And if your barcode scanners do not speak the language, then you cannot scan the barcode. So this is all very, very important. If you've never done barcoding before, you might be like, I don't know what all this is. But basically, these are the formatting or the language that those barcodes are speaking. So this is super important for making these barcodes work appropriately. And you can see how different these are as I change through them. The lines are quite different. So these are targeting certain scanners that are used in the industry. And so you can pick these up. So this is like a standard UPC that you might see at the grocery store or something. So some of these might look familiar. So this is super helpful. Again, if you need to maybe have if you have what are those things called, loyalty system with your application, where you've got clients that are using like cell phones with or smartphones, and they need to pull up like a barcode on their phone to like scan in their ID number off of like a loyalty app. Like that is a super useful thing to do with this. Boarding pass example is a really great one as well. So you could have printable technology, which, Sam and I, we did a lot of traveling before COVID. We know how important printable boarding passes are, especially when you see your phone is like on like 5% or something, and you're like, okay, this is where paper technology still makes some sense. I'm going to go print out this boarding pass at the kiosk real quick. So, super useful component here.
It is. Okay, so hold on for just one second. I want to check if it's nothing me or folks who are watching, especially on Twitch. Is the stream okay? Because maybe it's just mine froze up. I'm going to refresh just to make sure we are good.
This is where I pretend to be still, just to throw you off.
I think we are good. Just so we're double check. And I mean, I'm seeing an ad, obviously, but I didn't want folks to miss anything. Yeah, Eva says we're good.
Eva's good.
Yeah, okay, we're good. Yeah.
So I'm going to be dog fooding this component in my experimental app that I play with on some of my live streams, and I think you might have seen this one, Sam. This is called Blazeport, and this is it's on GitHub. It's in a little bit of a clunky state, as it always is, because this is my dog food application. So this is
your dog food application looks better than my production apps.
So this is an app that I use to try out all of our new components, and at some point in time, this will become stable, and we'll ship it as a demo app on demos.telerik.com. But I have to get over my my shiny new mentality and actually do that at some point and stop adding things to it. So I've got things in here, like this is our Telerik window, but it's been slightly customized to use like a flyout, like you might see on like an Xbox interface or something. So we've got that, and then we've got a Telerik form here, and we can pick a date from it. This app, by the time I'm done, I think I might be able to get it acquired by one of the new space travel programs that are going on out there. Maybe Elon Musk should be watching our stream, and he can just acquire this from me. That'd be great.
That's exactly what I was saying.
So, oh, that's funny. I didn't see that. So we can pick where we're going to depart from. Let's go from Earth. Then we'll go to Mars here. And through the magic of machine learning, we will actually get a realistic price on... No, it's not realistic, guys. But it does use machine learning to estimate a price here. $118,000 for a one-passenger ticket from Earth to Mars.
It's going to take us... It's always one way.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like Uber. Like whenever you're ready, you just pull up the app and you get a schedule going. Because we're that advanced, we can just get you there on a moment's notice. It's going to take 29 days and 4 hours. We're going 140 million miles. We'll go ahead and book that trip, and then this is where things get a little bit clunky. We haven't quite got to the point where this is complete yet. You get another one of those nice flyout panels. In the last release, not this one, but the last release, we had the Wizard component get introduced. Let me pull that up in our demo site so you can see that real fast.
While you're doing that, we got Rocket DevRel in the house. Hello, people, and hello, Detroit. We hung out with a lot of DevRel folks over at Rocket Mortgage, and within our little circle of trust, like we're all vaccinated, and then there were lots of hugs. Is all I can say.
So this is our Wizard component that you're seeing me use in the other app. So this was something that came in the last release, and it has validation and everything baked in. So when we're going like step by step through the Wizard here, we do get validation that will trigger and not let us go to the next step, which is going to be handy in my app pretty soon. So we can, jump through those wizards like that. So that is what I'm using in Blazeport. I just added that in the last version. So this is where I'm still working. And the next thing we're going to do is select a seat. This is just a generic thing that I made.
Wait. Go back. How did you do that?
This is just some clever HTML and CSS here. And you can see it's a little bit buggy yet. I'm still working on all the details for it. So,
could the new heat map be applied here?
Heat map. I don't know if a heat map would work. We don't have that in Blazor yet as well, but I don't know if a heat map would be quite right here, but I've got something going on with my select logic here that's a little off, as you can tell. working on that. When we get to the end, though, this payment confirmation, what I want to have there is one of the nice boarding passes.
Boarding pass to your shuttle.
Yeah, exactly. So if I go in here and view source, this is all, I believe, hard-coded here. You could see I have my Telerik barcode. We're not pulling this out of a database or anything quite yet. So what I could probably do is just go in here, just grab this ticket, and then go over to my app. And let's go find in our Solution Explorer here. We're going to be under Bookings. Oops, sorry, that's the theme. Pages, Bookings. And we should have a wizard in here. And you'll see wizard step 1, 2, 3, etc. We should have one called confirmation. I should be able to just paste that in there. And that's about all the changes I should need to make this actually just show up.
Nice.
It might not be formatted like pretty like precise, but it'll give me a nice placeholder to work off of in the next couple days as I develop this out. I usually do those shows on Friday. If I have time to jump into this on Friday, I will. So let's see if that works, Sam.
While you're doing that, so I agree with Rocket Devrel here. Like a lot of like the web, it essentially comes down to HTML and JavaScript, sure, but like it's how easy it is to render some of these things. Like that wizard, that'll take us a long time to do by hand, and also like just throwing in something like a barcode that's just ready to render. It is all HTML at the end of the day, but it's how do you get to that is the differentiator.
Yep. So just that quick, I threw it in there. Like I said, it's going to need some formatting around the non-component. Like the component, the Telerik component is the barcode itself. This stuff is just HTML and CSS, which you could see the styling for in the demo page. I just didn't copy it over. So that's why I didn't get it. I'll move that into a proper style sheet. And this will just work in my app. And then eventually I'll feed it some numbers in the barcode that come from a database of some sort, and then make it maybe printable or something. See if we could write that off to a PDF or whatever we can do. Maybe we can use...
You need a paper copy to get on a space shuttle.
I know. Thinking about the future in today's context is hard. So I saw this like really crazy video that somebody made. It was like done in AR, and they're like demoing like drone delivery of like I think it was like a pizza or something, and like the drone comes down and it kicks out like a credit card reader. And I'm like,
swipe.
I'm like, in the future, we're still going to be using swipe readers like for our credit cards. This is definitely thinking of tomorrow in today's context.
Before you switch on to something else, our good friend Dan Siegel is here in the chat room. Hey, Dan, good to see you. So he's asking, like, could you have rendered a QR code instead of a barcode? And I think that's a property, right? You could change?
No. So that is actually not something that's available yet. Yeah, I believe that's going to be a separate component.
You web folks don't have all the goodies. Then we have it on native land. You can do.
Yeah.
So it is the same barcode component, like for example on like WPF or Xamarin, where I can just like switch a property and it becomes a QR code.
Yeah, we're gonna get there, but I believe that's gonna be in a future release. I don't think it's one of the. I don't think it's one of the selections in here yet. So these are just standard industry barcodes right now. But essentially, QR code is just a 3-dimensional barcode. So you can just fit more dense data, I believe, in them. For the most part, if you're just trying to get like an identification number or something off of this, or like, I think if you're thinking in the context of a boarding pass, you're getting your confirmation code off of that. And maybe there's some other data in there, some passenger info in there that they're shipping along with it. But, with a barcode, you can key a lot of things. And this is something that's very heavily used in industry more than it is commercial use. So we've got that as an introduction to the barcode stuff. But if we look at Telerik UI for everything else, and also Kendo UI for jQuery, and it might be in some of the other tech as well. Let's double check here real fast. I think Angular has the QR code. So we're getting there. Again, Blazor's the baby of all of these things.
That's going to make Alyssa happy. Yeah, and Alyssa is pulling your leg. It's like, why do you need your barcode printer? Because are you running out of juice in your phone? That kind of thing. And I'm actually a little sad because I was due for a phone refresh, and the new iPhone 13s are the next hot thing, and we are starting to get our driver's license, our state IDs, as a legit wallet card, right? It's just a thing that you can show to law enforcement. And Pennsylvania is not where I'm at. It's not in the list of states. I think there are like 10 states which are allowing your IDs to be on your phone, and that's like through the special the chip with some security, which we can't have it yet, but eventually.
So I couldn't find it in Angular, Alyssa. So we might have that one ahead of you. But Kendo UI for jQuery has the barcode and QR code. You see they're different components in Kendo UI for jQuery. So we do have those there. I think this is actually fairly new in Kendo UI for jQuery as well. I think this goes back to still this year's release timeframe. If it wasn't released this year, maybe the customization parts of it were added. So we added the Swiss QR code this year. So this is something with the Swiss banking system.
Ed, before you do, take a deep breath, because we have Visual Studio giving us some love here. Welcome.
Party. Did we get a raid?
Yeah. So welcome, folks. Welcome. This is Coded Live. This is Ed and Sam here. We are .NET developers, and we are trying to break down all the goodness that was in our latest release for Telerik. And we're talking about all the web stuff today, which is your web forms, your MVC, your Blazor. Tomorrow is going to be all things mobile and desktop. So we essentially have the whole week planned out. We are doing Fiddler on Wednesday. We are doing React and Vue on Thursday, and then Angular is on Friday. So welcome on board. Ed is kind of walking us through all the cool things with Telerik.
Yep, and Kendo UI. We'll dive more into specific Kendo UI tech later with Alyssa and them on their shows. I think Catherine might be doing one as well with React. So we'll get into that specific stuff on their shows. But I just was showing the QR codes because we were talking about Blazor getting the barcode, and on the roadmap will be the QR code, as you can see in some of our other web components. We already have it, but QR codes leave you open to some additional things like customization. So you can throw like a logo in the barcode. So there's probably some data redundancy in the QR code that lets you put certain things inside of it that don't interfere with the data itself. So we've got the customization there. Again, the Swiss QR code, this is a big deal. This is like a standardization of, like, I think it's a payment system.
It is. And it's used all over EU.
Mm-hmm. So that is part of the QR code as well. And then, there's various ways of interacting with this. And again, encoding. We've got several encodings there. And you can change the colors of these codes as well. So it's coming. And if you're using Kendo UI for jQuery, you already have it. So,
and if you're on the native side, then you already have it.
If you're on native, yep. If you're using the newest, hottest things, it's being developed. So the barcode that we released in this release is kind of the setting up the groundwork for the QR code that will come eventually. We've got a Breadcrumb component. We've got our Carousel. This is something that was highly requested. these carousel type of interfaces are still something that people use pretty frequently on the web. I think you could even see one in Windows here that we've got. I think there's some carousels that pop up in Windows as well. So it's, yeah, like our weather has several pages here, for example. So you still see these carousels in user interfaces pretty frequently. And you can make those, you can make those things within Blazor now because of our carousel component. So you see these a lot with images, but I think the example I showed down here is a little bit more of what people might use those for, is giving you like multi-panel UIs that you can use and kind of pan through. So that's helpful. Breadcrumb, if you got really deep navigation on your sites, you can pretty much imagine how this might work with what you have. And this is pretty neat. This is something that I would not have thought of just
so you're navigating the breadcrumb through a slider.
Well, what we're doing is showing that you can change the depth of how far this is. So you could programmatically go in your application and say, if I've got 12 levels deep, then that's probably too much to be showing on a display. Or maybe if my screen size isn't this wide, I might want to go ahead and collapse some of those down.
Oh, so you see the double arrows. So there's more that you're not seeing, essentially. Yeah.
So the slider isn't something that you would have actually in your app. It's just giving you kind of a visual aid here. But, you know, with like a responsive web app, if I'm on mobile, I might, you know, want to just show, oh, that's an interesting one there. You might want to just show like 2 elements instead of showing all 12. So you can have that collapse. It's also got an automatic mode. And you could set that these can wrap as well. So if you don't want to hide information from users for some given reason, you can wrap them as well. So that's also helpful. And you can turn this on and off too. So you can just straight toggle it. Maybe if you're on a mobile or desktop, you just toggle that ability on and off. You can control the separators. You get real creative there, depending on what your app is doing. You can use templates. Not sure if Comic Sans is going to be my go-to for this, but there you are. Again, there's the separators too. It's using some arrows here. Like I said, depending on the context of the data you're talking about, the separators could be very insightful to users as to what you're doing. So it's nice to have control over all of those things. So we've got breadcrumbs. A Gantt was updated. Again, these are very complex things that we're updating. So you'll see a lot of new features within the components rather than just new components explicitly. So we've got timeline views being added to the scheduler component. This one is, you know, kind of like what you see in Outlook. You're trying to schedule like a meeting or something. Custom filters is something that customers are really asking for. So I'm happy to see that we were able to get that in the release. And then we've got some new event handlers in here that tell you what is happening as you interact with the components. So you can make, you know, code paths based on those events. And then you always see updates on our grids and tree views. Any of our real heavy data bound components always get updated in these releases too. So we can dive into those in the webinar as well. Sam, do you have a hard out at 11?
No, I'm good until like 11:30 Eastern.
Oh, 11:30.
Yeah,
okay,
we can go another 10-20 minutes. Yeah.
All right.
No, this is good. This is really good. And like we have been saying, like the demos, like what Ed's showing off here, you don't need to get anything down on your machine. Just play around with the UI and see what's new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our roadmap and what's new pages are as well show really good history here. Some of the things that are on the what's new didn't necessarily come in the last major release. We do a minor release like pretty much monthly right now with Blazor because it's so new. We're adding new features to catch up with our older libraries like Kendo UI. So you'll see us release very frequently. So we have other things in here like the wizard I talked about. The stack layout is a really cool one. And the grid layout are also very important. These are things that we kind of added, first of all, from a lot of customer suggestions. Customers really wanted a way to create layouts without having to dive into CSS. There's a couple reasons for this. One of the reasons being we have a lot of people migrating from other platforms that use WPF, UWP, so Xamarin Forms, Xamarin, the layouts that are familiar with those technologies. So we added a stack layout to kind of bridge that gap. And then anybody that needs to programmatically change their layout, this can be done with CSS, but it requires like passing values into CSS from Blazor, which can get a little bit tricky. It requires some creativity on the developer's part, and this just makes it so much easier as a component. You can just pass those values into the component. You don't need to have the deep CSS knowledge that I have to do that type of thing. So you can create a lot more flexible layouts that you can control at runtime with these stack and grid layout components with little to no CSS knowledge. And I think that's pretty useful. These things I think will become even more apparent as MAUI starts to pick up some steam sometime next year.
So on that front, well, actually, let me make a couple of points, and Alyssa wants to put you more in a spot and bring some of this. Like choose let's say one thing, and let's bring it into Blazeport. But while you're doing that, while you're maybe thinking about what we can do, since you mentioned MAUI, I wanted to drop this in, and also like in terms of where we stand with the rest of .NET and so on. So as of this point, so you can check out Scott Hunter's post on the timing of things. So .NET 6 is going to come out this November. That's going to be your big release in November that coincides with .NET Conf. And we are at RC1. So first release candidate is out. So things are getting stable. The tooling is improving. Along with it is going to be a lot of ASP.NET Core updates, which it's also linked from that post. In terms of MAUI, the core fundamental pieces of what MAUI is will be there, but it'll still be marked as preview fundamentally because it's whoa, your mic gain just picked up and we heard you like do the
interesting.
You're all good. Okay, so MAUI is actually shipping for GA not until first quarter of 2022. But some of the things you can start doing right now, like embedding some of your Blazor into desktop applications, you can start doing right now. So that's my quick update. And in terms of our tooling, Ed, you said, I mean, you're still here on VS. Oh no, this is actually VS 2022 preview. But do all of the things that you did, do all of them work in 2019?
I believe so. So the AJAX stuff, I think, works in 2019. The only thing that I think you're going to find different between 2019 and 2022 is if you're in one of the web technologies that's using hot reload. I think hot reload is only supported in the latest version of Visual Studio. So that's the one to watch out for.
Yep. All right. So we got maybe like 15 minutes till we said we'll go an hour and a half. So of all the things that are new, pick your favorite thing from Blazor land. What's the thing that you naturally gravitate towards? Like something simple. I mean, something like Gantt chart is probably too complicated.
So I wouldn't say favorite, but something I can show that's in the right context here is we can go back to this boarding pass that I pasted in. And remember, it kind of looked a little squirrely. It was not formatted correctly. So we'll go ahead and run this guy for a minute. And we'll do start trip again, just so we could see what that looked like. So I'll go to book now. We'll advance through to the confirmation page. And you notice it's like just a cascade of words like on the page. What we want to do is line this all up into a nice like boarding pass look and feel. So let's work on that for a second. So this is what we have for markup here. Let's move this over into a component to kind of get it into scope a little bit better. So I'll create a new Razor component and we'll just call it boarding pass. And then
we can, by the way, we can only see once you are in the code. Like some of the menus are too fuzzy, but once you're in code, we're good.
Yeah, the menus are going to be pretty small here. So what I did is just added a new Razor component here. So boarding pass.razor, jumped into that, and then I'm going to go back over to the main bookings page and just take this component out and move it into its own component here. So I think I grabbed too much. Let me double check here. I want to grab, let's make sure we get the right divs in here. Like I need to get all that. And then we'll just paste that into our boarding pass. And then I don't know. Whoa. All right, we'll stop that. Somehow I'm missing. Yeah, there was a missing div. Little Visual Studio trickery there. It made me think I had everything, but I didn't. Go ahead and reformat that. The Razor editor is still a little clunky here in the preview version. So there we go. So we've got our boarding pass. And now I can just use it as a component because it's in its own file now. And there's no child content here, so I won't even have an ending tag. So that cleans up my wizard views. So what I want for my wizard views, pretty much just the step, maybe the title, and then a component that represents whatever else is in that step, just to make it easier to navigate as a developer. And then inside of my ticket, what I want to do is adjust my layout so it doesn't look like this anymore. So I'll use a layout component for that. So in here, I can say Telerik grid layout. There we go. And inside of my grid layout, we can create a column, a row, and an item. So I'm going to go over to the demos real quick just to borrow a little bit of code so I don't have to write this all out by hand. So I'm in Telerik UI for Blazor. Let me go to the grid layout. Let's see here. Do a quick search and nail that real fast. So you could see how this might correlate to our what do you call it? Our boarding pass. I'll just go into view source so we can see how this is done. So we have the grid layout. We set up our row spacing, the column spacing, any custom CSS we have, and then we tell it how many rows we want and how high those rows are. That's an optional height that we can add. And then we tell it how many columns. And then once we have that definition, then we can do the items. So let's start with that definition. We want this to be, so we have grid layout rows. If we look at our boarding pass, we need to kind of determine the number of rows there. So let's see if we go to our boarding pass. To me, this has, this is going to be a grid that is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. And then 1, 2, 3. So what I'm doing is mentally kind of dividing this up. So I've got a grid here. And I've got a row, another row, That's 2 rows. Then I've got 4 rows. So it's 4 rows, and it's 1, 2, 3 columns. Okay, so 3 columns, 4 rows. So I want my grid layout rows, and then I want grid layout columns. Columns with an S, and then inside of these I can define my grid layout row, and that row is going to have the properties for the height of those items. So the height, let's see what happens here. Let's go ahead with 20 pixels to start off with, and we can always modify those later and adjust. I just want to kind of get a basic setup here. And then we said we had 4 rows, so we'll just duplicate those. And then we have columns. So we need our columns here. We've got a width. Let's set up the width to be, we've got 3 columns. Let's do 30%. Should be able to throw any CSS value in there. Whoops. Oh, Visual Studio is doing some fun IntelliSense again. I'll just do three columns at 30%. See how that works out for now. We can always adjust once we get everything defined. And then we are going to put our stuff inside of this grid layout. So we'll have grid layout item. Again, you could use CSS to do this, but again, the part here that is the use case for a grid layout versus doing this in CSS grid is I have control over these width and height values from code now, because I can do data binding in here and set these widths to a class value or property value and change those on the fly, so I can programmatically do stuff with this. And Sam's trolling here with the table. Tables are for data. This is not a data grid or data table scenario. This is a layout thing that we're doing. That we don't do that anymore. Bad, Sam. Back your virtual hand. Like we don't do table layouts. So let's see. We want it to look like that, and we need to put the data in like that. So we have our grid layout items, and then we'll have a grid layout item, and we can even set up column spanning and things. So we might be able to expand this to a 4th column and add the barcode in there and let it span the rows vertically and fill that space. So grid layout items, I need to make sure that's plural. And then we'll say grid layout item. And this will have content inside of it. So we don't want to do a self-closing tag on that one. So we'll do that. And we need to start breaking down the ticket info here. So we've got, this had ticket selection. What we really need is, this is going to have the flight number. We can move that up to that item there. And then I'm trying to think where this is going to start. So this is going to be my first item. The next item will be to the immediate right. So we have flight number. We want to have date next. So actually, let me think about this. I might have too many rows here. Let's do this with 2 rows instead. So I don't think those 2 things need to be in different rows. We'll go ahead and move that here. I'm in the same row. So there's our ticket selection. Let's see. We'll do another grid layout row. Item. And then we'll pop some more content in there. Just do the next one down. The date does matter when it's tickets to space. This is our launch date, Sam, so we need to know when we're leaving. So we'll do another grid layout item. And then we can get the next two items in there. And we'll just keep repeating this process. So we get all of our, let's see, did I not copy or cut these out? Boarding time, we've got flight number, date, boarding time, gate. I am cutting them out, so I might need more elements here. We'll see. Should I make this go a little bit quicker? A little bit faster. So I'll just take and duplicate that, so I don't have to keep typing that over and over again.
So instead of doing all of them together, like, do you want to see how it looks like right now?
If I don't move these over, it won't render correctly. So I need to at least have some of them there. There we go. So I want to at least have those items there. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I've got 2 by 3. So that math works out. And then let's go ahead and clean this up a little bit. And I left the barcode at the bottom because I haven't got quite there yet. But now we can run it and see how it looks. And we should be getting a layout now. So let this spin up. And I can go start trip. And we should get something that looks a little bit better at the end of this. Next. Oh, there we go. We got a little overlap here somewhere. It has probably something to do with the heights that I added. They're probably not enough. Let's go back and make some changes there. I'm not sure if I need this height value. Let me go ahead and just
do it itself.
See if it'll auto format that. So we'll save that. Let's see if it's going to restart the app on its own.
Well, could you hit previous? Like, since you're in the wizard section, would it re-render just that?
I think it reloaded itself, but I don't think I got the outcome I was expecting. I did not. So I do need some sort of value there. So let's try a little CSS value in there. So let's do a height of, let's put in 1 fraction. This is kind of a way of describing the height without giving it a predetermined value. This is kind of a flexible space here. It's going to say, I'm going to take up, since there's 2 columns and they're 1 fraction each, they'll take up basically 50% of the height. Let's see here. See if that's going to work out for us. Next. Still not getting what I want. I'm wondering if this is something I'm doing wrong.
Well, I mean, you're close, and you just have to kind of finagle.
I just need to get the formatting right here.
Hey, Ed, so a quick note. I have a meeting in like 1 minute, so why don't I let you finish this up so you can get the formatting exactly to where you want it to be, and I'll hop off a little bit. So folks on the stream, stay with Ed, and he's going to wrap up all the Blazor stuff, and then we're going to join you tomorrow, same time, to talk about all things mobile and desktop. So,
all right, Sam, thanks for joining me, my friend.
Well, there we go. You almost have it.
Yeah, I think I might have actually been loading the wrong browser tab, and it had an old cached version of the app on it. So,
all right. I'll bail, my friend. Take it easy, and we shall see you. You shall see me tomorrow, folks. Okay. So, bye.
All right. Thanks, Sam. So the last steps here would be, I can easily make some of these bold like the demo initially had. But what I want to do is move the barcode into the right-hand side of this. And I can do that using another grid item. So we'll do a grid layout item here at the very end. And if I move my barcode up into that, barcode, put that here, and then erase the last bit of the layout at the bottom. I'll save that. Now, this grid layout item needs some special properties to render correctly. Let's see what we have first. We'll go back and tweak that. We'll be about done. It seems to fall apart when I try to reload it that way. So let me, we're actually getting a error there. Let's do something different with this. Let's go to the command line for a second and run it from there, and we might get a different experience there. So let's do .NET Watch instead. And the wrong folder. .NET Watch. And I should get better reloading from the .NET Watch. So now it's going to detect the changes properly, and it should reload the app if it needs to. Whereas before, I was relying on the browser just to kind of refresh. So let's take a look and see where we're at with this. And notice we've got the scroll here now. That is not what I want. What it's trying to do is fit this column into this side here. Because of defined 1, 2, 3 columns, it doesn't know what to do with the fourth. Now that has a fourth item. So it's wrapping it down to the bottom into the next row. That is not what I want. So I need to give it another column here. So I'll drop that in there. Maybe 30% is not going to work in this scenario either. So let's work on the numbers here. Let's do, I wonder if I can use my fractional values now that I have the hot reload working and got this in a mode that is more appropriate for reloading the page. And you can see we're starting to get there, and I've got the always wonderful Alyssa Nicol joining me. Hello, how are you? You're working on the microphone. The microphone's not there for you. Was I not supposed to bring you in yet? Did I jump on it too quick? I'll let you fix that. I'll bring you in a second. So it looks like Alyssa's trying to join me for some Blazor fun. Feel free to hop in when you get your mic working. So now we've got some layout going on here. It's not quite right just yet. I think the fractional values may be working properly here, though. So we just need to tweak things a little bit. So we still have kind of an oddity here with this last item. What I really want this to do, and you can see it's got the fourth column here now, but it's moved the data from the third item or fourth item into that column. I want this item to be in that space. So what I can do here is for this last item. Did you get it working? No audio still. I don't have your audio. You gotta try fixing your inputs, I guess. Here, I'll give you some privacy again. Alyssa's still trying to come in. I can see her trying to talk down there, but I can't hear. On this last item, what I can do is I can tell this to be, let's get the right properties up here. I'm filtering the property windows here. So if you can't see what I was clicking on, there's property filters in Visual Studio 2022. And if you see the little Blazor symbol in front of it, these are our component parameters that I'm filtering in on so I can get the right ones. And I want to make sure that this spans, I want to set the row span to be, these are 2 rows tall. These are 2 rows tall. So I want the row span to be 2. So the vertical is going to go through 2 of the rows. And I don't know if this is reloading just the way I want it to. Yeah, it says it reloaded. Don't see it taking up 2 rows though. Let's try to go back from the beginning. Oh no, Alyssa dropped away. I think she had to close her browser maybe to get it working properly. You're more than welcome to come back, Alyssa. I'd love to have you on the show. Let's see. So we're still not spanning 2 rows for some reason. So not sure if I'm doing this absolutely correct here. So row span 2 should give me this element jumping across 2 rows. So let's try to move it. I can move this programmatically. I'm going to try to move it in source first. So we should be able to 1, 2, 3, and then this being the 4th item. See somebody jumping in. Let's see if we got this going.
Hey guys.
Can I hear you?
Hey.
I can hear you.
So like I didn't know if you could hear me. I definitely couldn't hear you. I was like, hey, I want to jump in and join you, especially since I egged you on to live demo something else on the end of your show. I was like, I should probably give you some moral support.
Well, it's awesome to have you. We've been so busy. We haven't had time to stream together, and it hurts my heart.
I freaking know. Okay, so did you get it working? Update me. What's happening with the barcode?
I got it working. So I needed to physically move the source code to put the barcode in the right column. This is not completely necessary, though. I'll show you how to move this around in a minute. So I've got like the flight number, the date, the boarding time, then the barcode, then the remainder of the stuff. So there's, if we look at this in the browser, we'll pull this up a little bit. I can't zoom in because of the responsive nature of it. It will.
I was gonna say, is it responsive? Did you just like if it gets smaller,
Yes.
does it go?
It will adapt. Although this part of the app isn't complete, so it may adapt wrong. But so essentially my grid layout is here. And I have, let's see if I can draw some lines. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. And I have 2 rows. With the
so
last,
this is the grid layout that is like Telerik UI grid layout, right?
yes, correct.
Because I don't think Angular has that one yet. I know React just got it, and Catherine's going to show it off, and I was really upset about it.
Oh, very cool.
But confirmation, how are you doing that? Like, do you tell it to ignore life?
Oh, actually, this is above the grid. I think I drew my box in the wrong place. So the grid actually starts here. You can ignore this. We could put it in the grid if we wanted to, though. But
and then have it like span multiple rows.
Yeah, we just have it span all the columns. So that's what the barcode is doing. It is spanning these 2 rows. So it fits in both of those. And then that's how everything gets bumped over into the next set of columns. So this is our layout as it stands. Now, I moved this in source code, but you can actually move it without changing the source code itself. So I can put this back at the end if I wanted to. And like this helps if the items are coming in from like a database or something. You don't have like a predetermined knowledge of this is the item and it's going to need to span 2 rows. And I want it to show up somewhere else. So you could actually put some logic in here to move this thing around. And you could say, I want it to be at row. I want it to be in column. I think this is going to be 4 in our case. And it is going to be at row, let's see, row 1. It spans 2, so it needs to be in row 1. Otherwise, it's going to be some craziness. But 4 is going to move it from its current position. You see, it's now the same as it was. Because what I did is it appears at the end, which makes it come out down here somewhere. But I'm saying go to column 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and render there at row 1, column 4. So I've moved it through through setting these values. So if I were to change this to like row 1, column 1, and come back, then my barcode's at the beginning.
Oh, okay. So your other grid bits, your little flight number, date, all those, do those not have very specific like directions? Is that why they're flowing over to the side? Like, are you not telling them to be in column 1, column 2?
Right. So these will auto flow.
Okay.
But if I set a very specific value, that one will take precedence over the layout where it goes in the layout, and then everything else will automatically drop in.
Now, do you have ways to be like, but on this screen size, all of the rows or something?
Yep. So
As
what you have to do,
it's 2-1. Would it left justify the first row? What? 2-1?
I think he's asking if I were to move this to column 2, row 1.
Right.
It should split these like that. So it's doing grid columns. So what it's doing here is, if I annotate a little bit again, if I draw a box around this, remember I have, actually I can do it this way as well. This is using CSS Grid under the hood. So what you'll see in here is a grid in the browser that I can click on. And then if I go into these
I love that so
here,
much. This is so freaking cool. Is the grid layout new to this, or have you had it for freaking ever?
No, it came with a midstream release. So between last R2 and R3, the shipped in between.
Okay.
So it's only about 2 months old, I think.
Oh.
So this is the grid layout. And then if we look, the source code for the item is here. So it's at the very end. Source code for the item's at the very end. So no matter where I move the starting point of it, it will take up a single column because it's spanning both of those rows. We can do this in CSS as well. So that you can see this is really just emitting CSS, but it's doing 2 things for the developer. One is we have devs that want to explain their layouts in components and not use CSS to do it. And then for 2, we might want to put something in here to override these values depending on, like, say I have data coming out of a database. One thing I might want to do in here is say, for each item in the database, and my IntelliSense is going to go nuts because this is kind of like pseudocode. In database, that's not a real thing, but I could say for each item, give me a grid layout row.
Okay.
So I could dynamically build this layout depending on how many component or how many data points are coming in from the database. You might even be able
to do something like item.length and like change like how big something is based on how large the data like is incoming or something.
Yep. So I could do database is not a real thing, so it's not going to let me quite do this. I could say database dot count, so the number of records.
Okay.
That is coming out of it, divided by, whatever, or it'd probably be the divisions the other way. Let's say 100% divided by the count.
Okay.
Something like that.
And
I could set it through program. So I could do that. I could also do make it respond to the screen size. So I could say Telerik media query. And I could set a media query for it. Like, say, when you hit this media query, run some logic, and that logic could determine what the values here are and where things go. So I could do that as well. I'm not going to do that quite yet. It's going to take a little bit of time to get all that just right, and I don't want to botch it up and make it look silly. But you could essentially say, on a small screen, go ahead and just collapse these into a single single column instead of having multiple columns. So they would
I
show
think
up
it's
vertically.
amazing that we offer it both ways, like that but B, it's doing CSS grid behind the scenes to make this grid layout happen. Like,
Mhm.
do you even know, Ed, how friendly that is to like the CSSers of the world who might need to come in and adjust something? Like this just like makes my heart happy.
Yeah,
You mean they're not floating everything?
right. Yeah, it's not using like Bootstrap like grids or Tailwind
Yeah,
grids or
no,
whatever.
I
It's
like
actually
it.
just using the right
Not
stuff for it.
that we're hating on Tailwind, because there's like a lot of Tailwind lovers out there, and they might like form a mob, Ed. So we should.
I think they would. They seem like the mob type.
They do. Yeah.
But they would form the mob in HTML and not CSS.
Oh my god! So this is great. I love this, and great stream, by the way, today. 10 out of 10.
Thank you very much.
It's
Thank
good.
you.
I really enjoyed it.
Want to make sure I fixed what I broke here. So,
Did you take out line 4? It was like an extra pseudocode line, and I don't know if you took it out.
oh, I bet I broke it. I bet you're
In
right.
the markup, it was like,
Let's see.
oh wait,
I did take it
you
out,
did take
but
it out.
in the breaking of the code, it might have broken the server. So
Okay.
I might need to run the watch one more time.
Right.
To get it to kind of reboot the app. And sometimes it helps if you close the browser when you do that too. Yeah, see, it's trying to restart. There we go. So here is the screen again. It should be back to normal.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Did I not put the value where it's supposed to? Oh, I put row span 4 column 2. This should be column. Oops. Row span 2, column 4, row 1. Yeah.
Because you went at the end.
I had the wrong values in it, and I just saw it move right there.
What
Pretty
is your
cool.
font? Like your confirmation font? What is that?
Let's see. So the font is, I chose these. I don't know the names of them anymore.
I don't memorize them ever. So I love it. It's so perfect and spacey. Like it's disgusting how spot on you were with it. So I had to know.
Orbitron. Orbitron. Yeah, I went full spacey here.
Okay, and last question about Blazeport. The animations for the worlds, what is that again?
Oh, dude, this is so cool. This is by I keep forgetting the guy's last name. Rob is his first name. So I put it in the source code here. There's some credit to this in the source code.
Oh my God. What?
I can't navigate to it here. So this is all through CSS. It's so awesome.
Shut up right now.
This is all CSS. Yeah. I love it. So if I go to planets.sass.
Is it actually a what do you call this? Globe? Is it actually an orb built in CSS so that you could animate it around? I'm confused. Explain it to me.
This is by Rob DiMarzo. DiMarzo. I got this off CodePen. I emailed him. I was like, I would love to use this in my app. Do you mind? He said, no, absolutely. I'm familiar with you guys over at Progress and Telerik, and I love what you guys do. Happy to be part of it all. So this is the coolest thing ever. So his examples in JavaScript. So I just gave a little translation of this. And there's not actually real JavaScript here either. It's all CSS. The only thing he's providing out of JavaScript is like just the planets. So you don't have to explicitly like write out each individual one of them.
Okay.
So essentially you have an element. Let's convert this. This is what? This is just a basic template of some kind. Let's see if I can do a different view. View compiled HTML. There we go. That's better.
You even had him in your drop downs, right? I think I saw him earlier today when you were like filling out a form. I was like, what?
So I did tweak his code a little bit to make it so it was scalar, so you could like put it in a smaller view. These are given a specific size, I think, and I made it I added some more variables that made them scale properly. But he's got here, you have a planet, and it has an atmosphere and a surface. And then you'll see in here, let's see if I can find, yeah, there's you probably can't see, I need to zoom much deeper. There's the name of the planet in here. So you have card-Venus, and then you'll have card-Earth, Mars, etc. So it pulls from that CSS value, and that changes some of the aspects of how it's rotating and whatnot. So if we look here, we've got all these wonderful CSS variables, and we have like Mercury is a group of variables. We have the image, that's the background image, which these are available from NASA, which I thought was really cool. So I easily found the moon and added it to my app, which wasn't in his demo.
Oh, wait. So it's a JPEG image. Can you explain to me why it's round? That might be the dumbest thing you've ever heard. Why is it round?
Check this out. If we go to that URL, this is what that looks like. It is a flat map, projection.
You're not helping my brain right now.
It's a flat. It's a flat projection of.
Are you telling me that it's not actually a round object in CSS that we are animating around, but we're like doing some funky, like, let's crop it to a circle and like move it back and forth or something?
Kind of. Let me see if I can get the right. Come on, tool. Is it caps?
Because I kind of thought that that he built a 3D object in CSS, right? And then he's just animating it in CSS. Because one time I was like super early on in the web, and I was like, you know, it'd be so cool if like I built a cube, an actual cube in CSS, and when it animated and like rotated to different pages, like it was actually like taking you to the other side of the cube. So I know it's possible to build 3D objects in CSS and then animate them. But you're telling me that's not what he did.
Phil Snell says, boo, it's not generating Jupiter's atmosphere from accurate physical data. So it's essentially drawing a circle, and then it rotates on an axis within that circle, and then animates left to right based on the spin of the planet.
Wow.
So does that make more sense?
It does, but I think it might be more performant than what I was suggesting. But
yeah,
I really thought he built like 3D little planets in the browser. So.
It's kind of simulating 3D instead of going full 3D. So you don't see this part; it's masked away, and then it will pan from left to right based on the axis. So it might rotate. So the axis would be here, but it might rotate this entire image at a certain degree to make it tilt on the right plane.
Was it difficult in Blazeport, like scaling this? Like, was that hard to do?
No, he wrote such good Sass code that it made it simple as possible. So he's got basically 4 values here. There's the background image that's scaled. No, absolutely, please. The tilt, the day. So this is how long a day takes in reference to an Earth day.
Yeah, which is needed for the math so that they're all like rotating differently, like at different speeds.
Yep. And then there's the atmospheric color.
Okay.
I have a feeling you like this a lot.
Like math and CSS is so my jam. It gets me so excited.
I'm starting to feel a little bit jealous because I didn't write it.
No, no, I do. So I wanted to show off. So Blazeport down here, that's the app that Ed was showing off all throughout today, where you can check out like his demo that he's keeping live. And I don't know, you said it wasn't ready for prime time, but it's gorgeous. And I don't know why you would say such things.
It's just not finished. Like you can't book a trip yet. You can go through part of the process and then it starts to fall apart and throw errors at you.
Okay.
But it does stuff. It doesn't do all the stuff. So he's got this, I love this mixin name here. The function name is planetization.
Oh my
so
God,
he loops through all of the planets that are in this array appear. And then for each one of those, it outputs the CSS necessary to animate the planet.
I love that.
So you don't have to write each explicit planet out. So it takes certain values and calculates like the atmospheric color, which is a box shadow, the planet surface, the tilt, and the animation durations. The planet
really spin that much faster than everybody else?
It's a relative thing.
Oh, what? To whom? Who are we
to
relative
us,
to?
To Earth.
Dang it. Oh God. Okay, I'm with you.
It's all very relative. So I mean, at this scale, Jupiter looks like it's just going bonkers, but you got to remember Jupiter is also
how many massive.
Right? Yeah, it's so big compared to Earth. So this is kind of an odd scale to be referencing things on.
I gotcha.
But this, this is spinning. This is an Earth day, and like Jupiter's going bonkers. The sun is kind of just chill. But yeah, so all those values get kind of funneled into this little planetization function, and it spits out most of what is needed for all of the planets, which is what I said was so cool about it, because I needed to add the moon, because you could see he doesn't have the moon and I do.
Yeah, show me the moon. Go back to Blazeport.
What I did for the moon is I copied one of these, added the mapping for the moon, for the graphic for the moon, set the proper rotation in the day and the atmosphere color, and just those 4 values. Now I have a moon. Is that not crazy? I didn't have to code anything. I just added 4 values.
Blazeport. Show me the sys.
So you'll see in here, I have the planets I'm not using commented out. Right. And then here's the moon.
The moon. What? And you said that these images are just available?
Yeah, they're so anything that NASA does, it's done using government money. So those resources are available, like images and stuff like that are available for open source use. So you can just go in and grab those. And I think I just Googled it. I Googled like.
I love that you just like plugged in the variables and making the moon worked. Like that's so freaking cool.
Yeah, I did like a Google search like to find the flat map of it, and then I found, here it is. See the URL on here. You can't see because of the stream. moon.nasa.gov. So this is a government photo of the moon. Oops, of the moon. So I just grabbed that and inserted it into.
Funny in the chat.
Just a quick Google search. There it is. Oh. Look familiar? So I just grabbed that. Yeah.
I love Blazeport. I love it. I love what you've done with it and with all of our components. I think it's amazing. I'm really upset that you have the grid layout now, but I'm going to get over it.
Like Rob is really awesome. I emailed him like after I was like, can I use it? He's like, yes. I emailed him back. I was like, you don't have the moon. I need the moon. Would you be able to add the moon? And like before he could respond back, which he did very quickly, I realized it was just these 4 like variables, and I added it. And then he replied back. He's like, I'm really busy, but I'll try to get to it. And I was like, never mind. I already got it, because your code was just so easy to read.
I don't think you can make a PR to a code pin, right? I was like, you should totally add the moon for him for free. Be like, here you go. Here is moon.
Yeah. You can fork it, but yeah, it was so easy. Like I couldn't believe how simple it was. But then I added, I think to his, something in here I added, I think it's where these comments are. Yeah. I added a little bit of scaling code, because these are at a very specific size. And I noticed when I scaled them that the atmosphere would get blurry. So if you go back to edit trip,
on your drop down,
we pull the drop down. I wanted them in the drop down. There's still a tad blurry. It's something that's hard to really perfect.
I mean, honestly, it looks great. I don't know what more you want from putting the planet in the drop down. What did you have to tweak?
Atmosphere. like this little corona that comes off. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Right there.
You're saying you don't want that? That's not.
No, you do. It's supposed to show like the atmosphere that's around the planet. And when you look at it at a larger scale view, it's not as blurry, I guess. But you can see the Earth has kind of that halo around the outside, right? There's also this, oh, sorry. So to make this look 3D, there's actually a highlight on this corner, and you can see it a little bit more prevalent. There's a dark side on this side.
Mm-hmm.
You see it now, and then there's shading to kind of blur that out.
This is all from
CSS.
His CSS, like to add that.
Yeah, so there's a shade on this side, there's a shade on that side, and then there's the atmosphere on the outside. So there's those values that had to be scaled. So what would happen is if I scaled this down, it is responsive too. So if I go down, you'll see little bitty Earth there.
Oh, that's so cool.
Is that corona thing would be like huge. It'd be like all the way out here, big blurry mess on the background.
So it wasn't the planet itself you had to work on the scaling, but it was that.
Yeah, and I think the planet went black too because the black shadow just kind of like took over the whole thing. Right. Yeah, because they're not at a percentage value in here. I don't think they couldn't be at a percentage value because they have to be part of the see the crest, light and dark crest. You had to calculate this. It wasn't something that could be done on the fly.
This makes me wonder. So I recently went to my first in-person conference last week in like 2 years. And I was teaching on stage and we got off on this tangent on the differences between CSS custom properties and Sass variables, which this like that demo and honestly a lot of what you built in Blazeport takes advantage of Sass variables. Like you see them all over your CSS. But like, do you know, like with Telerik UI or even like Kendo UI, do you know if they utilize CSS custom properties anywhere, or is it all Sass variables? Like, do you have any ideas? Like,
for the time being, it's all Sass variables. As far as I know, we don't have a solid roadmap yet on when we might have a kind of a dynamic theme.
Well, I think the way that like our API works with most of our components, you know how you were showing like height on that one, what was it? Was it the barcode or was it the grid layer? Oh, it was a barcode, right? You're passing in height. And I think like that's our way around the non-persisting variables, right? Like that's your way to plug into your CSS, right?
So this probably gets into a little bit more under the covers than most people care about, but I'll talk about it for a second because it's something that I want to see. But I think our it's like one of those situations where we have like a big ship that we need to change course on. And since the libraries are so big and have so many features, just going from Sass over to CSS variables is going to take a lot of engineering.
Which you think is the direction to go in? Because like I get like the audience was asking me, they were like, what is the differences? And I was saying, well, other than syntax, which custom properties or CSS variables, whatever you want to call them, they kind of like make me cringe because of like how much bulkier they are. But like other than the syntax, it's just the persistence after the page is rendered, right? Like there's no really other difference between the two.
There's a huge difference between the two, and that is that Sass is at built or Sass variables exist at dev time, and
and whereas the custom properties you have access to after everything's rendered.
Yes,
I mean, like
so that is a huge deal.
You're kind of getting around that with our API, right? So like, why would we want custom properties? I guess
because you can't get around all that at runtime. You can you can go in and like force these things with inline styles and stuff programmatically. It's not going to give you 100% coverage though. I'll show you why. So what happens, we have one Sass library that actually outputs all three of these themes. So our dev team, you can actually, I think, find this on GitHub and clone it and fork it and all of that. It's very complex. It is not an easy thing. So there's basically a setting that says, I want to build the Bootstrap theme and the material theme If you look at the differences between the material theme and say the Bootstrap and the default are pretty similar. This one though is wildly different. So if you look at the components, they have a lot more changes around like the forms. You can really see it. So you got like that underlined example here that the Bootstrap and stuff have like a box around the items. There's a lot of big differences in this material theme. And I think some of this would be hard to code through CSS variables. So having one root theme that outputs this material theme and that Bootstrap theme, I don't think is going to be an easy task. You'd have to start from scratch and start over and create a brand new theme that is designed with that in mind.
I think the hard part too is that this like supports not just like Telerik UI on like the Blazor side or the .NET side. Like this supports like Angular, React, Vue, like because we essentially have like the same base that is like, you know, spreading out throughout all of our products. And I showed it on stage actually, like when you try to use custom properties and you know how you always define those in root. Well, if you just like go and you throw in your custom property and it exists and you try to use it and you're in just a default Angular component, you do not have access to root because of view encapsulation, how it works by default, right? And so then what does our component library disable view encapsulation everywhere and make that decision for you? So I think there are other, right? So, and that's just Angular. Like I don't know how the other frameworks work. So
I don't know how much time you have, but I'd be happy to explain how that can be done. So we're gonna take a fork in the road on this show here. I did cover this. We're already
like way over time. So I think we covered everything. Now we're turning into another show.
So I'm gonna show you something that is going to blow your mind. So let's take.
Also, does Blazor have this same type of view encapsulation or no?
It does, and I found a way around it with CSS properties that I think is going to be like crazy awesome for you. So let me see if I can find this. I did it on a show. I need to find the code for it. I think I have it up on GitHub if I can't find it here. So it was checklist box, was it? Let me try this one. I think this is the one I did it on. And I need to find, yeah, this is the one. So this is, oh no, this is part of it. I think this might be midstream though.
Well, I saw that you were defining your variables in root.
Let me see if I can find it on GitHub.
Which then I suppose you have access to.
I think I have the finished on GitHub. So this is a really neat trick. Checkbox component. All right, let me see if I have this checkbox grid. No, I need to clone my own repo because I don't have the latest version here. So I'm gonna go and grab this. We'll do a file new project. I did that wrong. Want to go to file. I'll just go to my start window and create from a repo. Drop that in there. Checkbox repo 6. Checkbox list 2. What is it yelling at me for? Local path is not valid. How is that not a valid path? I already have 2 of them there. I've done this before. Free. Okay, I've done this before. Maybe I should just open that other one. So we'll go into this and take a look. And we will open the project. Cool.
And your issue earlier was literally that your camera was on too high of a setting. What?
Yeah, I was running it at 1080p, and I think it was eating up too much bandwidth. So just cannot be started directly.
I just was like, mental note, so I don't do it in the future. don't be on 1080. I don't know. That was weird. It was a weird bug.
I think it's just my bandwidth. I think it was trying to stream too much bandwidth. So app is loading. If it's not working, then I might have an issue here.
I'm so excited to learn how you got around this encapsulation.
It's a really, really cool thing. I need to write a blog post, really.
Oh my God, yeah.
Terrible about that, but it's crashing like, or something.
Is it? How can you tell? I don't really understand like the UI that I'm looking at.
It is stuck. Let me try rebuild here. Rebuilt. Let's run it with debugging enabled because maybe it'll tell me. And it says loading forever.
But like, shouldn't you have an error or something in the console?
I should.
Some sort of feedback.
And I do.
You do? What is it?
Failed to load. There's 404s like crazy. Why is it getting 404s?
Does this project actually exist?
It's getting 404s like it can't find the resources in the files here.
You said this is something you cloned down recently?
Yeah, I just cloned it right now.
No, okay.
And I know it works. I've had it running like before I put it on GitHub. I don't usually put code that's broken on GitHub. All right, so let me try opening another project because I saw that when I was cloning this, I did have another instance of it, and that one might work. It might need like an update actually. So no, that's not the right.
It's strange that like if it needed an update, it would throw these errors and not.
That's not the right one. Let's try back at the other one. Yeah, I thought I'd get another error.
Yeah, Aztec says it's my fault, so I officially apologize to the stream.
You're such a troublemaker, Alyssa.
I broke
it. You?
I know it probably is my fault.
Let's try dependencies. Manage NuGet.
It was weird. It was weird being back in person.
I have 3 updates. Yeah, I know. I want to get back out there.
It was a good weird, but it was still weird. Like like the first 10 minutes, I was like, "Is this a dream?" Like I don't know, just walking around with people walking around. It was odd. It was cool. I liked it. But I don't know if you've ever been to. Have you ever been to KCDC, Ed?
I have, and I caught it at a really bad year. It sucked.
Why? Whoa,
it wasn't KCDC's fault. It wasn't KCDC's fault. It was the Earth's fault. So when I went to KCDC, like Kansas had, or not Kansas, Missouri. Yeah, they had 110-degree temperatures. And KCDC is in,
oh my God, that was the year the AC went out.
Really big venue. The air conditioning died.
We're talking like 2,500 people and like massive convention center, and the AC just stops.
Yeah, the AC died, and then what was the big focus besides code at KCDC?
The big focus?
Yep.
Besides food? I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, you got it. Food. So you have barbecue, right? So
it's like very warm and sweaty barbecue.
So the year it'd be nice to even have any barbecue.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that happened. So their vendor, not their fault, not bashing KCDC, love you guys. Their vendor, they had some kind of disagreement or contractual thing that fell through. They had no barbecue. So 110 degrees, no barbecue. That was not a good KCDC for me.
Was that the year right before everything started shutting down?
I think so.
I think
it was.
Okay. Because I'd never been to KCDC before. So I know like mid-pandemic or end of pandemic, I don't know where we're at in the pandemic, to be clear, going to a conference. So it's very like, it was like half capacity. There was only like 1,000 people there, but still like, I was really impressed with like the quality of the community that was there. Like just talking to people in the hallways, or even the people who like went to my talk and like started conversations and were asking questions. They were like so engaged and just cool. And they weren't even, I don't think most of them were JavaScripters. So it was, I was really enjoying like branching out, meeting people from other like bubbles of tech, and just I don't know. I love it. What is this demo, Ed? What am I looking at?
So this is something I built to demonstrate this new superpower I found. So I'm data binding to color.
Okay.
So you can see like this is one of those things I said was the main differentiator between Sass and CSS props is you have runtime control over things like color. And I'm also changing values in, this is a CSS grid. And the items, I'm controlling the number of columns in that grid. See it through the slider at runtime. Ooh. So
okay,
that is cool, right?
Yes. But you're saying you're not having encapsulation issues?
Oh, there are no encapsulation issues. These are all using CSS isolation. So how I get around it is a fun little trick. So let me show you. This is my component. Checkbox grid.razor is the component, the markup file.
Okay.
The CSS is here. So let me see if I can everybody see okay? We good on the screen size here? We're
great. Explain it, Ed.
So I have a div and let's see where all the goodies come in. So the checkbox list item, the tick mark, these are all the styles that are applied here. Mm-hmm. I also have an inline style. Ooh, that's a scary word, right? Inline style, that it's like cringeworthy, right? So I have inline style up here. Let's look at the CSS. So checkboxes, let's put this side by side. I like doing side by side. So checkboxes is the container here, right? Mm-hmm. And it has all of my my property settings. So you could think of this, let's annotate a little bit here and say this is like this similar to
root, like instead of, right?
Yes, similar to that, and also similar to what you pointed out, right? I get that on the right side. Is it root colon or is it colon root? I always forget. I am using it, so we can look over here. Root, colon root. So it's very similar to that. It is actually an override for that, but we'll get to that in a minute. So checkboxes is the root level element for the component, okay? If you look, I've got background color, hover selection, hover color, the number of columns on a large screen, and the number of columns on a small screen, okay? Follow?
Yes.
Now I have the variable that I'm using, and this is the game changer for me. I did not know this about variables, but you have our name here, then you have the value, right?
Yep. The sum.
Did you know that you could also have
defaults?
Default.
I think I've heard of this before, and I thought to myself, why do I need that?
All right. So here's what default value does for you. You could actually take off this. This could be any property. It doesn't have to be a variable. Any property. And
you're
if
saying
you assign,
can give any property a default value in CSS.
If you use this.
It's the var that takes the default. Okay.
So yeah. So if you do this, and if this value is null, then it uses the default value. Okay.
I got to be real honest. I still don't see how this gets us past view encapsulation.
It'll make sense in a second, I promise. So if this is null, then this is the value. Right?
Yep, I'm with you.
Okay. So keeping that in mind, if that is that, then okay. So if this is not supplied, I default to this. If I look at color, my background color is going to get the value of checkbox grid background color. If it's null, I'm going to go with white. Okay. The color is going to be checkbox grid color. And I think I might have wrote that one wrong there. That one might be actually incorrect. It's supposed to be a comma white. So I actually have an error there. So it does this all the way down. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying in the global namespace, get this CSS value, CSS property value. If it's not there, just default to white. Same here. If I've got this, take it. If I don't, get white. The selection color, if I have it, that's great. If not, use this color, and so on. All the way down, even with the columns. So if I have the checkbox grid columns value in the global namespace, then grab it. If I don't have it, go with 2 fractions. Keeps doing that all the way down. So now what I've done is I've set up basically a set of constructors kind of for these values with defaults. So if I look at the root HTML theme CSS rather, so this is the non-isolated CSS file that sits at the root. I've set at root checkbox grid color and the selection color. So at the global level, I can control the color of this component because it is looking for that CSS var. See that? So this is at root. It will take in that value here and set it at the local scope to another variable.
Yes.
It's using it, but it's using it indirectly.
Who's doing, okay, you know when you're changing the color and it's changing everywhere?
Mm-hmm.
Is that on the right side? Is that this component that's doing that, or who's doing that?
So let me further explain what's happening a little bit here.
Thank you. That would be great. Thanks.
So I'm controlling at the global scope of the application through root the color because the hierarchy here. So this is CSS working in my favor again. That's what I like about this. So with CSS, this is how it overrides things. Root is like the absolute root, right? So this is the lowest level thing in the entire page.
Right.
So if I set something here, it will. If I set anything above it, it will cascade and overwrite this. So that's what's happening here in checkboxes. This is above the root, so it's going to take this, but I'm setting a new variable locally. So this kind of isolates me from the root now. So down further in my CSS, if I were to overwrite background color, then it's not changing the root level, it's changing the local scope. So by that logic, if I go back to my markup and I look at this style equals inline style.
Yes.
An inline style is much higher up the scope than root or checkboxes.
Yes.
Therefore, the values I set in the inline style will supersede the ones here. So if in my inline style, I say double dash background color is whatever color of the rainbow, it will then overwrite the actual background color variable and set that property value.
Okay.
So what's cool about this is I'm not saying like style equals color blue like that. I'm actually saying that.
Right. Yeah.
which then applies to anything in the scope that uses that variable. So now if I have calculations that are based off this color, so if I had background color and then I had like background color dark and it takes the values of that color and like massages them or flips them, creates a gradient off of them, they will also receive that variable. I'm not setting it to a specific property like color. I'm setting it to a value.
I love it.
So now I can write those inline styles into the HTML. So this is where inline styles, I normally say don't use inline styles. It's bad practice. But in this case, I'm using them to take advantage of variables. So I have the best of all the worlds. And if I look back at my checkbox, I don't know where my names went. Something broke in that, but I don't know if did I change any of the code in there?
I didn't see
I
you
did.
Did you?
That is very strange. So I don't know why the names stopped rendering, but you get the idea anyway. They're not important here. So if I set a color here.
Oh, there they are.
Then
They were white on white.
Oh, it was white on white. There we go. Okay. Oh, I know what I broke. I did break something.
Did you change something?
This should be black.
Ah.
When I fixed that, it should have went to black.
I see it. So
now if I look here and I do inspect element and I pull up the outermost colors here or outermost element here, look what I have in line. Checkbox grid background color. And there's there's where I'm setting it at the component level.
Right.
And I can do that through some data binding here and set it at the component level. But what's really cool is if I don't want it just set at the component level, I could also go in here. Let's do new style and say, can I do this in here? I want to say I can do it in here. Root. And then let's go look at one of the global settings here. So I don't even have them defined. Notice I have 6 properties and I've only defined 2 of them. That's because they have defaults. So you don't even have to have them in your root to take advantage. It's not going to like just blow up for no reason because they're defaulting. So I could come in here and say the selection color is some value, right? So let's try that one. Let's make sure if something is selected. Then let's go in here. Come on, give me the root back. Root.
There it is. Yeah.
And then it should be -- selection color. Is it selection color?
Thanks, Ivana and Cindy.
I want to say it
your
is.
support. Mwah,
I should have. Yep. I should have just copied this. I'll copy that out. Selection color. Nope. It's checkbox grid selection color. I need the globally scoped value. So now I can come back here into my root and set this to blue. So I set it at the global level because the component is consuming that variable and then passing it onto its own local scope. So if you want to think of it a different way, I know you're familiar with classes in C#, right?
A smidge pitch, but like, are you saying it's because they were doing a default that it's passing it on in that way?
Yeah. So right here, I'm saying go ahead and get this color, but if you haven't set it, then I'm going to go ahead and use this color. So that gives me global styling. So if we were to think more in the context of like Kendo UI, I could have ThemeBuilder setting these root values and the entire application can take advantage of them. Inside of the individual component, though, there is its own scope.
I'm excited to try this out. Hang on, I'm going to screenshot. Hold still.
It's only on GitHub.
I'm just going to go try it out in the Angular worlds and see if I can get it working. Because I do generally just like kill view encapsulation with fire is just how I handle it. So
yeah, so I got really irritated because I'm like, I can't really like make a globally themable component. I have to, put this hard value in it. And this exposes it to a global scope with still keeping the fact that the component itself might want to use a
Right.
local scope. So you
Yeah.
get the best of both worlds, and you can set them and override them
I love that.
as needed. So
You should do a blog post. Just saying.
yeah,
Or
I
like
think I
maybe
should.
just a markdown file on GitHub, like that goes along with this.
So,
like in the the project.
if we want to like flip this on its head, like this is where I tell people, if you're a developer, I don't care if you're writing C#, go write some JavaScript. Or if you're writing JavaScript, go write some CSS. If you're writing CSS, go find something different, because it'll give you ideas how to tackle problems that aren't inside the context of what you're normally working in. So to me, the way this works is if I create just a C# class here, I can explain how this works like a C# class does. I'll call this example CS. And we'll stop debugging there. We don't want to do that. In a normal class file, what we'd have is a property that has, let's just call it a string. Let's say it's value, right? So my example here, if we wanted to use it, we'd say example.value equals some value, right? And that would set the value for it. That's how you'd use it. You'd create an instance of it. Capital offset makes a little more sense. So that's how you'd use it. I'm outside of the scope of this thing, so it's going to give me an error. But that's how you'd set the value of that instance of example, right?
Right.
If you added, let me comment it out just so it doesn't get too ugly. If I wanted to set what is called a constructor for this, I would set up something like this, and I would say I want it to take a string of value, and then value.
Puppy? Do you have a puppy?
Yeah, that's my dog.
Outside bark. Oh my god, I love that dog.
Oh, she hears noise upstairs. My wife's hurt, so she's just getting up. Why does this keep saying I'm in debug mode and I'm not? Do I need to close my browser?
Is that really why? Was that why?
So now I've created a constructor here. And this is going to make sure that I set this when I create a new one. So if I were to say var example equals new example, then I would have to pass in the value here like this. Now, it may be a little less apparent with this fancy syntax around it, but what we normally do is have what's called a backing value in here. So this would have a private value that is underscore value, and that is all we need. And then the getter and setter would map to, let's see if I got a quicker way to make this, convert to full property. Yes. There we go. That does the same thing. There. So what we're saying here is, it really, I shouldn't use the word value.
I was like, does it know? Like,
yeah, value is a reserved word, so I kind of goofed up with that one.
I see.
We'll just call it name. That'll work better. Name. So convert this to a full property so we can get a little bit better sense of how this actually works. And there we go. So we have move this down. No, that's not how we normally write it. So
what's up with this backing thing? Never heard of that.
What we're doing here is we're saying when somebody sets the name property,
Yes.
we're going to take what they passed into the name property and assign it to this variable and store it. So the way I had it written before, it was hiding this. It still does this behind the scenes. You just don't see it.
Oh,
So
okay.
when I say name equals some value, that gets passed to the property, which then gets passed to the backing field, and that's your persistence. I also have the ability to set this when I construct the example, and I can say when I have a new example, I'm going to set the value. It's going to take that value and assign it to name. Okay. This is private. This name is private to the example class. So what I could do in here is when it is being set, I could modify it maybe. So what I might do is say when it's set, take the value and go to lower. So it's always going to be lowercase. Whenever I set it, it gets set to lowercase automatically. I can't access the functionality of this name value outside of the example without setting it. I have to set it through this setter. So it will always be lowercase. I cannot force this to be uppercase because I can't go in here and say name value with lowercase because this is privately scoped, right? I have to go through the public property to set that name backing field. So it's always going to be lowercase. This is very similar to what I'm doing here. So
is that what gave you the idea? Like, is that what gave you the idea to try it in CSS? That's awesome.
If we do this, we say this is the selection color. It doesn't like hyphens, so we have to kind of get rid of that. Oops, actually I got this wrong. Sorry. This should be selection color. Replace all of those with selection color. This should map pretty close here.
Inside the example.
This is going to be I'm taking this from the global scope here. So we'll take that out of the global scope. So if somewhere else I had this set, I could set it there.
Whoa, that was weird.
Yeah, it does not like hyphens. C# is not built for hyphens. Sees that as subtraction. So. So I can set this by taking it out of the global scope and applying it to the selection color, and then selection color here. I can modify internally all I want. Right. Let's change this too.
I'm so excited to try this.
I can modify selection color internally inside of the example if it's getting data from somewhere, or if somebody sets color on that instance. So now I've scoped it to the instance. If I set the color value, let's make this blue. Now I have this other problem here. There's no default yet. So in C#, if I wanted to set a default, I would just say equals. So by default, this is green. Why does it keep doing that? I told it to stop. I don't know how many times. So let's move this over so we can see it in its entirety. So when I construct an example now, it's defaulting to green. That green will get set from this value to this one. And now it's scoped internally, and I cannot change it without telling the color to change. But when I do tell the color to change, it's taking the internal privately scoped color and changing it. It's not changing the global value. So that's essentially what the component's doing. I'm
so excited to try this. I'll show you. I'll send you my Angular demo if I get it working in Angular. I love it.
So Fuel Sample says, looking forward to the next stream, trying out F#.
Yeah.
I have not tried F#, but
you had this one
I've tinkered with it a little bit, but
this comment or like chat message on YouTube, I don't know why it didn't come through StreamYard, so I retyped it here. And I think you kind of touched on it, but I just wanted to give you a chance to address it.
Can Telerik components be customized like using Tailwinds? They can be customized with CSS, but not like Tailwind. What Tailwind does, it takes, it's kind of a sticky subject for me, because what it does, it takes the CSS properties like this position, opacity, etc. It moves those into HTML, so you can set them in style on a, like, if I said div class. This may not be Tailwind, but it's Tailwindy, because I don't really know Tailwind. But you'd say something like position. I spell it completely wrong. Position.
You're like
and
fingers
then,
off by one.
yeah, you'd set it to some, some Tailwindy class, and they might have some predefined positions that you can use that, or like box shadow. It's like some fancy shadowy thing that only works in Tailwind, right?
So I would
they have
say,
like these predefined thingies.
Yes, to a point, right? Like we can customize like Tailwind does, because, well, I mean, Tailwind, first of all, like you're saying, is very like, what is that word? They're defining it right there in the markup. They're like,
yeah, it's very, it feels like inline styles to me with extra steps. That's all it is.
And so yes, Telerik controls, Kendo UI controls, they can all be customized in that way, to a sense, because we have an API. So like how he was passing in height to the barcode, right? There are certain points that you can like right there in the markup customize. But then for everything else, like the rest of this show, so if you missed part of it, go check out the VOD. But for everything else, you should be able to go in and customize it with like the variables, right? And like override what you need to. So, I mean, yes, to a point, you can do it like Tailwind, although I don't know. It's Tailwind's totally, it's a completely different system, right? Like look at what he's showing on screen, like font semi-bold, font medium, like it's all very.
Yeah. So Fuel Snabble, he said he thought, or I don't know, they thought that Tailwind is writing CSS in JavaScript. No, it is actually not. It's writing CSS in HTML, which I find counterintuitive. So I'll take like the background gray 100 is probably not a great example, but the rounded. So up there you see rounded extra large P-8. What that actually translates to is so border radius is going to be, I'm guessing what their value is like 10 pixels, and then P8 is going to be padding, and whatever 8 is in their context here, we'll just say like 80 pixels or something.
Yep. It's just
that's all it's doing for you.
You're essentially using your CSS classes to describe the CSS you want to write, which is a train of thought. Ed and I lie on the other side of it. We believe very strongly that your classes should never be what something looks like, but what something is, and they're just two different camps. And then it just it branches, and it's a huge talk of discussion. I don't know why Tailwind is like all of a sudden, like it seems like it's very, very popular. For instance, Angular 12 released Tailwind support, and everyone was like, yes. And I'm like, is it really used that often? I didn't know it was used that often. So I don't know. It's blowing up, at least in the JavaScript side of things.
This is how it should look. Let's just have a class called like main figure or something, instead of having all that mumbo jumbo in there. If you put that at the very top, you actually don't even need this inline. You don't need this inline, because you can just use selectors that target these elements, and then you don't need any of that in your HTML. And by the way, when you write all this verbose HTML like this, depending on how that technology is being used, you may be shipping like lots of extra bits down the wire because you have all this verbose markup. So if you're doing like server-side rendering of any of this, you might increase this page size by some minuscule amount, but then you scale that to like 1 million users. Now you're paying for additional server processing and bandwidth on your Azure / AWS / whatever hosting company you use.
We should do a
At
show
scale, so-
at some point, like where we talk about the two camps, because that's what it comes down to, is like the two ways of writing CSS, and then go into the reasons why, because I would love to know more on like, I don't know. I guess maybe some developers just find this easier, but I don't see it. I only see the pain points. So I think we could do a whole show on this.
Like these things here map 1-to-1.
Yeah.
So if you look at this one, I need to zoom in. I apologize. I keep forgetting to zoom in. This is just using Flexbox. Flex, it's literally the same CSS. Flex, item center. It's item, item something
probably
center.
like justify content center or something.
Yeah, justify content center.
Oh, they already have this by center. So then the other one is the other way of centering. Rounded,
so
medium. Oh, okay. Yeah.
You're getting to the point where you're taking, you're typing this instead of saying this.
Yeah, it's
kind of monotonous. But in their defense of people both using it and the people that created it, I'm not trying to bash anybody here. Their examples look amazing, and people assume that the framework is responsible for these great looking designs. That is not true. You can create ugly sites with Bootstrap. You can create ugly sites with Tailwind. You can create beautiful sites with Bootstrap and Tailwind.
Right.
Their documentation is spectacular.
Maybe that's why people love them.
It is amazing.
If you want docs to take, and their demos are like on point.
They are what you should aspire any of your documentation to be if you are in the business of writing software. I will say that. Like, they're amazing. They have really great documentation. I mean, just from the page design alone, it's easy to figure out where you need to go. They have tutorials on how to get started with it. And then there's one, I can't remember where to find it exactly. I'm sure it wouldn't take long, but there is one example they have that will take you through like building an entire website. So maybe it's under
they are pretty. You've got that
resources. Learn design UI. Is this the one? No, that's not it. There is one though I've stumbled onto a few times.
That'll walk you through it.
Yeah, it will walk you through. Maybe it's like a screencast. That's another thing. I mean, look at all the.
Yeah, there's a lot of content, a lot of support. Yeah. I can see why the community would like it. There's so many. I mean,
they're basically taking on the responsibility, teaching people how to be designers. If you look at that thing, if I can find it, I think I have a link to it in one of my presentations. So I talk about this a little bit, and hopefully they pick this up for .NET Conf. I'm going to do this at
which one is that, by the way?
It's in November. So let's see if I've got a link to this one. This is what the page looks like. I bet if I Google it, I can find it now. It's called Workcation. That's what you build.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. The demo they have you build.
Jeez, hold it. So they have a video of this as well. So maybe that's the thing. So they teach you how to build this, but with Tailwind, not CSS. So if somebody were to take and just write the same tutorial, like,
Yeah, no, that kind of, that's
this is what you build. I mean, it looks great, right?
No, it looks amazing. And I think it would be so fun. Whenever things die down, you and I should tackle it. Like, we should do a stream where we build Workcation with CSS, like teaching people the right way. No, we don't want to upset people in the community. We wouldn't do
This is video based. So if somebody wrote this,
Nice.
if you look,
it's really cool.
It's a course that somebody built, and you install it, you go alongside it. I thought there was a written version too. Maybe if I load the preview, there's a link or something in it. Anyway, I thought there was a written version of it, but you go step by step and build out all of this stuff using Tailwind, and it looks like this when you're done, and you get an idea of not only how to use Tailwind, but lay out a page and whatnot. Like I said, the documentation around all of this in every way you look at it is really good, and I think that's one of the reasons people gravitate to it, is because they can get familiar with it. CSS, there's a million blog posts, but they're not organized in a way that's equates to like documentation, right? Alrighty. I think one of us froze.
I was trying to see.
Oh, you were very still.
I was sorry, Jimmy, to freak you out. I was trying to see if there was anybody amazing that we should raid after this. I have to hop, but you can totally keep it going.
Me too. I have to go.
I think Visual Studio is actually live again if you wanted to raid them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can do that because they raided us. I think they had technical difficulties.
But yeah, it looks like they've got quite a few, like a panel on or something. So yeah, we should hop over there and see what they're doing. Do you want me to do it? Do you want me to handle the raiding?
Yeah, go ahead, because for some reason I don't have the ability to do it right now. My console's grayed out.
Okay.
So that was fun. Yeah. Thank you for hopping in.
Oh, and like tomorrow morning, Thursday, Friday, we're going to be on all week. We're doing live streams. So I'll see you peeps later. But do you want to promote your webinar before we raid?
Yeah. So next week, if you go to telerik.com and just look at the top banner, you will get the sign up page. Just click on the big yellow banner that says checkout and sign up. And you'll find the dates and times. You can just attach it to your calendar and all that good stuff. That's the easiest way to explain it.
Hope to see you all there on the rest of our live streams and webinar, but we're going to raid Visual Studio. So show them love in the chat. All right. I'm doing it. I'm doing the raid.
We are raiding 27, 28. Everybody's queued up.
Let's do it.
Right.
We're done. We're done. We're rated and we're done.